There's something inside of me that I can't turn off. A part of me that won't stop for anything.
Garbage in, garbage out.
Hey everyone, welcome to Garbage In, Garbage Out. I'm your host, Kelton, and as always, I'm joined by my co-host, Grift. How is it going, buddy?
It's good. It's been raining a lot here lately, so it's been limiting my ability to touch grass. But it's last couple days. It's been good. Been getting out there, playing some baseball.
That's good. That's the ultimate form, I think, of touching grass, right?
America's pastime.
We don't have a guest this week, meaning we are not going to be confined or constrained by anything. You're going to get our unadulterated, unfiltered, undiluted takes on this particular movie. So I'm really excited to dive into things. We're going to be talking about Tom Clancy's Without Remorse. I hate that I have to say all four words of that title because Tom Clancy branding is it's a vicious hell beast to try and just refer to anything without the Tom Clancy name.
I always find it like strange and like off-putting when like series titles have the author in it. It's like it breaks the immersion of this being a piece of like fiction if it's like always has this like, you know, corporeal author, a name attached to it.
Especially that he's dead now.
Yeah.
For anyone, I guess I have to assume that there are people younger than us somehow listening to us, if not all of them. Tom Clancy is a author who thankfully is now dead. I say thankfully because he is responsible for an entire genre of airport novel fiction that everyone's suburban dad just goes apeshit over. Like, if you want a weird mid-40s white guy with stubble who is a former Black Ops operator and now on a rogue mission, like, he created that entire format for someone who wears cargo shorts and a pastel shirt to read on a flight.
Like, the closest thing I can compare it to in the British context is James Bond, but this is like an American propaganda series for the intelligence services and the military.
Yes,
and you know it's spread over, like, he has several different characters he has series for.
Yes, because in this particular one, we're looking at John Kelly / John Clark. We're watching like the origin of this guy who is going to go found the Rainbow. I guess the organization is called Rainbow. I was going to say the Rainbow Six universe, but it's the Rainbow side of things. And then more famously is probably Jack Ryan. And that's the other thing that Amazon has going on with their Amazon Studios. John Krasinski, fucking Jim from The Office, coming in to talk about why Venezuela is bad. So
I am fully pilled on Amazon Studios being deeply involved in intelligence operations.
They have to be at this point, right?
So that Jack Ryan, John Krasinski series took place in Venezuela and was clearly meant to sort of play act on screen an ideal vision for how things were going to go. Like, you know, we replace the leader with, you know, a Guaido figure, but that, you know, because of our diminished capacity, because our intelligence service is a bunch of fucking Buttigiegs now. They can't they can't pull this stuff off like in the past. So we're left with these like cultural detritus. These series depicting like their ideal outcome, and I think this particular one like definitely slots right into that that notion.
Well, because it's one thing to be evil; it's another thing to be evil and inept. Like, say what you will about the Reagan CIA operations, like, they at least knew what they were actually doing. Like, they didn't have any qualms about it. And that's kind of where Tom Clancy, I think, comes in and has built this world, is around the Reagan era. This is a bad guy getting a bad guy's job done. Like, it takes a... What was that fucking Clint Eastwood American Sniper line? Like, it takes a sheepdog to protect the sheep from the wolves. Like, that seems to very much be the mentality at play here in all of his works. And so the fact that he has stuff for the airport novels, for now TV series on Amazon, and all of the video games, like, he has been a cultural force for going on 50 years now. It's insane.
Yeah, and like you said about the 80s sort of like Reagan era spirit to it, I think this one in particular highlighted how they're searching for that enemy still, because it's they acknowledge it as being post-Soviet, but it also feels post-war on terror. Even though the end goal is counterterrorism for NATO in that mid credits scene, like the main conflict here wasn't anything to do with like Middle Eastern terrorism, except for taking place in the evil Syrian regime,
undisclosed Syrian regime.
Yeah. So it's like, and like obviously we're gonna get into the Russia stuff a lot when we're talking about it. But it feels like they're unsatisfied with Russia and the Middle Eastern terrorists as a big bad, and it's interesting that China didn't come into play.
Well, you have to leave something for the sequel, Grift. Come on now.
Yeah, you're definitely right. Yeah. China is the dark side coming in.
We have to
this
then
universe.
accept something. Like, I don't know what's going to be a more bitter pill to swallow: the idea that China is the big bad, or that Michael B. Jordan could somehow run an undercover op on the streets of Beijing. Like, I think he would stick out just a little bit somehow, some way.
It's not going to be the same as drunkenly walking up to the Russian embassy.
Yeah,
they're going to be a little more out of place on the streets of Beijing.
It is weird, by the way, to know that like evil Russian bodyguards have a better trigger discipline than the beat cops that run around in Cleveland.
Yeah, we got to see some Russian cops get beat up get beat up on in this one.
And so I guess like before we dive into things fully here, bird's eye view style, what did you think about this movie, Grift?
I thought it was lazy, muddled, unmemorable propaganda.
Yeah.
Basically.
Nighttime set pieces with grayscale and a lot of dust. Oh boy. How memorable is this?
Yeah, and like scenes shot so that if the lighting in your room monitor situation isn't just perfect, you're gonna not see most of what's going on.
Oh yeah,
like we were saying before we started recording, like the action scenes were very like low rent Call of Duty, and there were definitely like a couple moments of realism and unique aspects to the action elements, but mostly it was just like a video game retread through like a not very memorable plot at all.
The next part is trying to figure out who this movie is meant for. Now, I've talked about how this, the books at least, are meant for dads who are reading novels at the airport, or for teenagers who grew up playing Tom Clancy video games. I realize now, though, he's been around for so long, those are now the same person. Someone could have played a Rainbow-style video game in like 1998, had a kid, and now is a lame dad.
Yeah, it's absolutely another attempt at an MCU-like universe by a streaming service, capitalizing on a nostalgia-laden, brand name affiliated media product,
God.
and just aimed at older male figures who missed the Cold War of all types. Dads, uncles, older brothers, stepfathers, gym teachers. I don't fucking know.
Really, though, it is one of those things of where, like, if you thought that the third season of Stranger Things, you didn't pick up on any of the political overtones, you will eat this kind of movie right up. Like, you will gobble that slop. Because that seems to be what their target audience actually is to just further dig in those lines of thinking about this. Because when we're then to talk about like, well, what was this movie trying to achieve? I think in general, Amazon wants to just kind of like what you were saying. They were trying to make their own universe. They want to build the Jack Ryan verse, if you will, because then they can have Jim from The Office meet Eric Killmonger, and they can talk about how the CIA is getting the job done. Like, that's really what they want, I think, at the end of the day, in terms of content. But I noticed in the notes here that you actually made a much more realistic point that's also much more harrowing.
Yeah, so they had a mid-credits scene where I don't want to spoil it too early if we're going to go through the rundown, but I think
anyone who cares about spoilers for this. That's like caring about spoilers for a Call of Duty game.
Oh no,
like,
I was more talking about our for the sake of the podcast outline. I didn't want to step on your shoes by bringing it up before it's time, but being a considerate co-host here. But he's meeting with the now director of the CIA, who throughout the movie you were sort of unsure about his allegiances, but then it turns out he's working for flag and country.
Nice, real blood and soil type of guy. Blood of the soil kind of guy instead of salt of the earth. I think that's going to be my new phrase.
Love that for you. So Michael B. Jordan's meeting with him and is being like, I'm going to assemble a team to fight counterterrorism. It's going to have Britain, it's going to have other good countries, but it was explicitly that it was going to be fighting for NATO. Which set off a lot of alarm bells.
Oh God, I wonder what NATO's main purpose was. Oh man, if only I could think about it real quick. Oh God. Yeah.
Despite the plot elements that were, against setting, people conspiring events to set up war against Russia, what is the point of NATO? To oppose the geopolitical power of the empire on the Eurasian landmass that has basically existed as a political entity since the early Middle Ages, and it's a counter to whatever other world power hegemonic force out there in the world. So it's just Russia as a construct is still the great evil, no matter whether it's Soviet or whatever it is now.
Exactly. And we have to appreciate the line of moderation that went in with this movie, because when talking about the various intelligence agencies that would be employed, it was the CIA, the FBI, MI6, and NATO. They left out the Mossad name drop reference. So I'm really waiting on that Easter egg reveal in the sequel again. It's going to be Israel helps take on China in Russia, I think, if I'm just trying to play bingo with the fucking terms here.
Lock it in. Yeah. Lock in that prediction. Riding high off the Oscars. Can't lose.
So the ultimate question with this movie, I think based on our approach, people should get the general gist here. But would you recommend this movie to anyone? Like, even as a guilty pleasure kind of watch?
No.
I'm right there with you. I'm right there with you.
Just now.
I cannot in good faith recommend this movie. Now, I'm not saying that people should stop listening to our podcast episode. Not at all. Because I want to rip this thing apart, and I want there to be witnesses to this execution that's going to be happening. But it really does seem to be something where if you want a way to fill a certain period of time in your day, just rewatch whatever you were watching last. Do that again instead of watching this. It's really, really not worth it, even from a pure craft style point. There's no set piece in it that's creative, or there's no shot where I'm wondering, well, how did they do that? Or what was done behind the scenes in order to make that happen? It's just not that caliber of movie from Jump Street.
Yeah, if you're listening to this, I have trust in your taste that whatever you watched last was better than this. So just rewatch that. You would probably get far more out of doing that than watching this.
It's one of those things of where seeing the cumulative rating kind of across the board doesn't seem to be hitting any higher than 60% anywhere. It's like 5.7 on IMDb. Even IMDb, which is owned by Amazon, not even Amazon, could inflate the numbers for this movie enough to make it seem reasonable.
Come on, Amazon! Like, get your Saddam Hussein on a little bit. You know, rig those numbers. Yeah. Those are fucking rookie numbers. I want 98% at least. Like, what are you doing? Why are you not putting your foot on the scale?
Yeah, I think their biggest obstacle is that it came out on Amazon Prime, so you have to know how to navigate the user interface for that god-awful app. Now we get to a little bit of a fun part of diving into some of the background information, to trying to figure out who made this movie exactly. Because they've been trying to make this movie since the 90s, first with Keanu Reeves, then in the late 2000s with Tom Hardy. But then finally, they were able to get the job done. Two producers who did the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles reboot, and then one producer who did the I, Robot and I Am Legend movies, and definitely isn't looking for the next Will Smith in Michael B. Jordan. They got a script made by the guy who wrote stories for Call of Duty Modern Warfare 3 and Call of Duty Advanced Warfare. And then they threw a bunch of money at Michael B. Jordan between the releases of Black Panther and Creed 2 to sign on to a 2-picture project with Paramount Studios that then they sold that to Amazon. So it's this real kind of jumbled mix right from the beginning here.
Yeah, the only thing that I could say about the writing of that was, honestly, gotta say, the story of Modern Warfare 3, not as good as the first two. I don't think they were working with a lot here.
They weren't sending their best, folks.
Absolutely not.
I think is what we need to be saying. And I think they realized that a little bit, because then they got the director of the movie Sicario 2. Did you ever watch any of the Sicario movies?
I have not, but I've heard a lot of people talk about them, so they've definitely been on my list.
Yeah, the first Sicario movie I'll not necessarily defend, but I'll say it is much more of a character piece and an insight into some border tensions. And then Sicario 2 is basically just anti-immigrant propaganda.
Okay.
Like, we have Muslim terrorists coming across the border, dozens of them every day, and they're all wanting to blow up everything. That's kind of the vibe of Sicario 2, right? So they get the director of that movie, and then they also get the writer of both of the Sicario movies. He also was nominated for an Oscar for Hell or High Water, which was surprising to me. So they got that guy to do rewrites on the Call of Duty Modern Warfare guy's original script. So it kind of was one of those bizarre Frankenstein-like projects behind the scenes. Something that you should know is that although this writer didn't win an Oscar, he did win an AARP award for grown-ups, which is apparently the AARP has their own like Oscars type award ceremony called Awards for Grown-Ups. And yeah, in case you were wondering how it stacked up to the Oscars, they goddamn love Trial of the Chicago 7. They thought that movie was the fucking best.
Oh my god. The damage that Sorkin has wrought on our state and culture is...
It's not good. It's not good. Lots of psychic damage across the board here. So again, I wanted to emphasize this because I think that if anyone was going to be making a Tom Clancy adaptation, it's probably the director of an anti-immigrant movie and the writer who has won an AARP award for grown-ups. That kind of seems in line with Tom Clancy's wheelhouse.
Wait, what award did he like? Is it are the awards for grown-ups? Is he winning an award?
They're called awards for grown-ups. That's right.
An award for being a grown-up.
Well, you see, it's the award for grown-ups Best Picture or the award for grown-ups Best Actress, etc. And it's really also quite fun that the AARP has tried to monopolize the idea of being a grown-up to meaning old, decrepit, and your best years are behind you. So it's a good time all the way around.
Yeah, millennials aren't grown up until they're literally receiving AARP benefits.
That's the dream, I think. So, although I think we should probably talk about a benefit available to our millennial audience, our Gen Z audience. It's our sponsored segment. Who are we sponsored by this episode, Grift? What's happening?
So a coming soon notice. I'm working on a collab with our good friend Cole, Netscape.
Hell yeah.
At Java GIGO. It's a pullover. Can't reveal too many details, but it's gonna be called the Revolt collection. So it's gonna be playing with some new Grift shop concepts. Might be getting a little problematic too, but we'll see which sections of Twitter cancel us for it.
That's something that I think we can all look forward to. Just it's a brand new day on Twitter. Let's figure out who gets mad at us for what. It's a goal. You would almost think that we were the ones making the anti-immigrant movies, but no, not that. Instead, we just decided that it's okay to wear shorts to a baseball game.
Yeah, but no, Cole and I have been talking about doing a merch collab for a while, so it's super exciting that it's coming together. So yeah, I don't know exactly on the timeline. I think he's got an article coming out too, so we wanted to coordinate with that. So be on the lookout on his page for that. And I imagine this will be dropping in the coming weeks.
Fantastic. And then, of course, once it does, we will make another notice right here, smack dab in the episode for y'all, and also include it in the show notes. So be on the lookout for that. I guess now, without further ado, we can actually do a bit of a rundown here. We open in Syria, where John Kelly and his crack team of operators are attempting to rescue a hostage from ISIS, only it's not ISIS, it's the Russian military. Egads, oh my. What did you think about that big twist?
So, like I referenced earlier about how these cultural products are the sort of echoes of failed U.S. foreign military operations, particularly what came out in the news recently about how that news story about the Russians troops putting bounties on American soldiers turned out to just be completely untrue. And
what? Come on now. That can't. Come on. Why would our intelligence agencies lie about that, Grift?
Yeah,
come on.
Why would the media be the main propagator of those lies?
What possible advantage could they have by making sure that everyone gathers and huddles around their televisions in a panic state to try and get an update on a fabricated story, but they first have to wait for fiber pill commercials to take place?
Yeah, that's the only people who advertise on cable news anymore.
Big Activia is the real villain all along.
Defund cable news. No, but anyway, but yeah, it just felt the whole these are actually Russian soldiers on the ground, not ISIS. Well, actually, I was under the impression that it wasn't ISIS, it was Assad, because they kept referring to the Syrian state as
yes, that's right. Right.
I kind of got an impression of the movie early on that it was a sort of Bappin level thing, whereas the Syrian state and the Russians are colluding on the ground to do bad things, and they're the axis of evil. But then the Syrian stuff didn't really come back, and then the Russian stuff went even different directions that ended up being even more insidious.
Fucking full-blown Russiagate is what this movie ends up becoming. The one thing though, before we kind of leave the set piece that is Syria, one of the things I really appreciated was as they're trying to fight their way out, one guy ends up coming at them with an RPG, and I just really appreciated that. You just brought a gun to an RPG fight, because my God, does it just wreck shop the entire way through. They're kind of forced to scramble a little bit. They barely make it onto the chopper, where the CIA guy who headed up the operation just doesn't seem to be bothered by it whatsoever. This is part of his 9 to 5, it feels like.
Yeah, that guy, that was an interesting portrayal. I found that CIA guy character, because I've been lately sort of conditioned to thinking of the modern bureaucrat in the intelligence service as a sort of like Mayor Pete type figure, this sort of slinky political operative, just like but this guy had that hard old school intelligence on the ground like Alan Dulles, Cuban Exiles type vibe to him. Like he would have fit in right with those crowds, and it was like, okay, this is that same archetype reinterpreted in a modern context.
You hit the nail on the head. I'm just now picturing this like CIA agents. What happened to you? A picture of him and a picture of Pete Buttigieg is just returned to tradition.
Yeah,
underneath it.
I guess it's a combination of the types, because you have the Buttigiegs on the ground greasing the political wheels or doing the office work, and then like this type of guy was going out in the field and being very cool, calm, and collected about it. The only difference between him and the past eras of glory was this guy. He has a beard now, basically.
I mean, the thing I will say, I believe the character's name is Ritter. He's played by Jamie Bell, who was on the AMC show Turn America's Spies or whatever. So he played a spy for like 3 years. So I think he probably was able to pick up some acting clues about what to do in this particular role. But he's like assistant director of the CIA. Like he's not just like a CIA grunt. So that was the other thing too. Like this guy has his own Wikipedia page and is still running these ops.
Yeah, he's riding in the helicopter and like which is actually like, damn, that's way more impressive than how it actually is.
That's the propaganda aspect. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, how it actually is way more like burn after reading or something.
Yeah. Yeah, so they all end up being able to escape via chopper, and we get a hard cut. Like it was almost like an SNL, like a hard cut for contrast's sake to make people laugh. But it's a hard cut to an all-American family gathering where you meet John Kelly and his very pregnant wife, and you're just basically introduced to a character who you're like, oh no, like this is not going to end well. You have about 3 minutes of screen time left in you before something horrible happens.
Also, like the timeline didn't really make sense for the characters, because the way he left that last action scene we were talking about was thinking that the CIA was going soft on the Russians, and he was being like, oh, we why are we ignoring the Russians being on the ground here? We need to make this known. We're at war with them. And I guess that ennui around that was enough to make him quit 3 months 3 months later. But also his wife is clearly like pretty pregnant.
Yes, exactly.
And it's like, so that's been going on too, and then it's all like introduced.
Well, no, they're just that pro-life, Grift. That's what a woman who is 3 months pregnant looks like. You see. So.
Oh no!
That, or she was about to give birth to a Nephilim, just a 11-foot tall monster creature. So,
yeah, it was because presumably you would retire honorably, I imagine, or at least from the movie, from what the sense I got from it, from the military to have a life with your wife and kid. So I guess that decision had been in the works, and then his displeasure with not taking Russia seriously didn't factor in, or it was just a bizarre emotional timeline that didn't really broke the immersion off the bat.
We're not supposed to think about it too hard, man. Like this is a movie where the very next scene is, oh, look at this other operator who's also with his family. He's taking out the trash. What just like a America and baseball and flag and 4th of July bar. Oh my God, a van just took him out and ran over him twice. Popped his head like a fucking grape.
Out of nowhere. And then on to the next scene. And
no closure for that family.
Yeah.
That's what I was thinking about the entire time, is that in another movie, that is what inspires the wife to become a badass and start her own thing. But no. We just never hear from them again. Sorry, your dad died.
Just overall, the smash cut from the on the ground Call of Duty op to the All American Family Barbecue. It was like, okay, these people are sociopaths. Like these are in, like, you know, these people are able to compartmentalize on an insane level, and this is, and that's the propaganda. Like you're saying.
And see, that I think is actually a beautiful analysis point, because I was going to give them the benefit of the doubt. These are the basic cutscenes that exist in a video game when you're playing story mode. Like, oh, fuck, I can't skip out of this. Oh, why? Why do I have to watch this? Oh, whatever. But thankfully, it doesn't last too long, because Russian military finally break into John Kelly's house at night. They kill his wife. He manages to kill 3 of them, and he's almost killed. He gets shot several times, and he and one guy in particular, they kind of tussle around. And this is where I think a bit of the fight choreography and elements of realism, if you're going to give the movie any credit, it would probably just be in that category.
Yeah, he gets shot a couple times, and he
doesn't get any scarring, by the way. He gets shot so many times.
And then, and then a couple months later or so in the timeline later in the movie, he's back to performing at full capacity. But initially, at least in this scene, you know, there's an extended sequence of him and his opponent both shot, both on the ground, both crawling towards the guns, you know, still trying to fight or escape. And it was a moment of stillness in the pace that felt it definitely broke the immersion of unrealism towards realism, because it was
in that moment where I was legitimately wondering, like, was this something that got put in by that Oscar nominated writer? Was this something where he was like, no, like, you have to actually show him struggle. He can't just kill all of them because they killed his wife. You know, there has to be like some element of empathizing. Otherwise, who knows what's going to end up happening. But so let's see. John Kelly, then he wants vengeance, of course, but there's a big problem. There's an obstacle in his way. And that's that the CIA guy, Ritter, is already throwing his whole operations team and crew under the bus. Just saying, like, we don't know what kind of drugs these people might have been trafficking, which, again, you cold motherfucker. Like,
yeah, and, like, even in the movie that's blatant CIA propaganda, they still make the CIA absolutely detestable.
Yes.
But because it's unavoidable. It's fucking feds.
It just is one of those things that serve as a reminder that the CIA, even among other departments, that they don't really fully respect them as much as they fear them. They're like the one crazy friend, the real wild card. But he also has a trust fund, so you know you don't want to piss him off, because then you might disappear somewhere off of an island somewhere. So.
Yeah, he it's the friend who has a unlimited black budget and all the drugs you could ever want.
So then Michael B. Jordan's character is able to rehab for a little bit. You get this feeling of things are being grounded, because he's also trying to do some research. He's trying to find who the one surviving member of the hit squad was and try and track him down and kill him. And that's when he goes to his commander, which the commander, wouldn't you know it, it's a woman, girl boss energy coming from this, you know, wokeness points in this movie, right?
Yeah, you know, okay, interesting. They were going for the woke points, and I see the cynical play, but her portrayal of the this role, I think she brought an intensity to it that honestly was one of the main standouts in this movie.
Yeah, she actually was. What's the phrase I can use here that would be best? She was putting an effort in, because she knew what movie she was in. This was not the star vehicle for her. This was a audition piece to show what other movies she could be in, to get her out of the Tom Clancy world, I think. So kudos to her, because her character is able to then give John Kelly toe tags of the 3 people he killed, so he's able to triangulate to then go and find that 4th one. So he's then able to go to his house alone at night. All of his stuff is still shot up. There's caution tape everywhere. And then he just starts seething on the floor a little bit, which, again, just a weird moment of emotional resonance that they were going for. But I guess the 3rd time wasn't the charm for me in this case, because I was just cringing the entire time.
Yeah, Michael B. Jordan has definitely not among the top tier of his work here.
No. Well, I mean, like the thing I always try and keep in mind with these action guys is like, do you actually want to see him start crying? Like, can you picture Michael B. Jordan crying? Not like single tear rolling down or a couple tears, but he's crying because he's angry, but like a genuine moment of loss and of sorrow and reflection on that. And if the answer is no, I mean, I would encourage people to maybe try and watch this scene to show that it is in fact no. No, he cannot. He cannot cry unless it is angry crying. Because this is like Fantastic Four levels of cringe when he was trying to talk about how misunderstood he is. It just, I don't buy it whatsoever.
I'm sensing a little bit of putting men's emotions in a box there, Kelton. Kind of a problematic narrative, I'm gonna say. Speaking for men's mental health over here. Michael B. Jordan can cry if he wants to.
It's his party. He can cry if he wants to.
He didn't look convincing here doing it, but Michael, let it out if you need to.
So he does then, I think, what any guy in his situation would do. He then goes to a hotel where he then tries to basically pretend to be a drunk. He pours alcohol all over his clothes. He pisses all over his clothes. He goes full undercover here. It's a great scene in general. That again, I'll give credit where credit's due for it. Of where it was kind of fun, and I appreciate that they did not try and put a needle drop song on it, because I felt like that would have really been a hat on a hat.
Yeah.
And so
it was absolutely enough. Just a quick shot of him dumping a bottle of vodka over his head in the shower. that was really all I needed.
I legitimately was wondering, like, is he thinking about killing himself? And then he starts pouring alcohol all over him. I'm like, oh God, is he going to light himself on fire?
Yeah.
What's happening here? But no, it's none of that. He actually is able to follow a Russian diplomat, the same diplomat who issued out the passports to the hit squad, and he crashes a truck into that car. He then pours gasoline all over the limousine, and then he sets the car on fire. And he opens the door and he gets in the car in an absurdly calm way. I genuinely like that shit. I was like, I haven't seen this particular setup before. Interesting. Now let me try and get over the fact that this is very much CGI flames that don't quite look real.
Yeah, I loved how it was never explained where he got the tow truck or wherever the fuck he was driving. No. He just all of a sudden he's whipping on the highway, switching lanes in this huge ass it was like a tow truck with a plow on the front or whatever.
Yeah, he raided some after hours Waffle House to try and get that that truck to then try and do what needs to be done. After he gets the name and the information from the diplomat, he kills the diplomat, steps out of the car, and is of course just swarmed by cops. And that's when he says that he's military and to not shoot, and he's military. And I really appreciated the heightened realism of this movie, because it just goes to show that these cops, when they see a black man in a hoodie stepping out of a car, that they definitely will not shoot him, right? Because that's what cops do. because they're good, productive members of society.
Yeah, I mean, like after there was that recent video of the black veteran being menaced by police officers for no reason, and and just to see here this guy crash a tow truck into a car and then pull a gun on someone inside and then just be able to hop out and not be immediately shot, which would happen in real life.
137%.
It's absolutely propaganda. to even just for them to be portrayed as acting their job in a reasonable manner, given the current state of things, even if it's not blatant, cop worship, that's part of the propaganda milieu that's always around, always present.
Well, and it's interesting because, like, this particular director, his first film came out in 2012, and he's an Italian guy, so this was an Italian movie called All Cops Are Bastards. Which at first I was like, whoa, hell yeah, that seems pretty cool. And then when I looked up the plot of it, I was like, oh, this is like Italian propaganda. It's like, look at these edgy cops getting the job done. Yeah, they're not the best guys, but this is exactly what the city needs.
Oh no, did the cops reclaim ACAB? Fuck. Oh no, okay. Be right back.
Exactly.
Gotta delete some products off the Grift shop. Fuck.
Yeah, but it's Italian. It's Italian ACAB is what has been taken. So we can try and make it into various territories, I guess.
It's only a matter of time.
It just was something where, I was like, oh, well, this could be interesting, but then I have to remember, like, this guy didn't start off as like some bizarre lefty progressive type and then do a hard right turn. Like, he's always been kind of a right-wing dirtbag, I believe. And so you just have to remember that, because in these kinds of movies, the cops will never be the bad guys. They will never be quite the expendable people. Now, cops in foreign countries, yeah, sure, fuck those guys. They're part of a foreign regime. We can't trust them, blah, blah, blah. But if you need a domestic cop to just get smashed in the face repeatedly, you do that with prison guards. Prison guards are your cannon fodder in these kinds of movies, because our main character, he goes to a prison that's run by the Russian mob, and you get this you get two scenes in it. The first scene that you get with him is like this bizarre reenactment of Suicide Squad with Will Smith, which, again, knowing that like there was a Will Smith producer on this movie, I have to think was kind of a specific choice that they were trying to reference, of where he's just trying to fight a whole bunch of prison guards all at once. And you see him preparing and stuff for that. The other scene, and this is one where it felt like they were laying on the propaganda a little thick, is Kelly and his commanding officer having a discussion, and he says the line, we fought for what America could be. I'm done playing by their rules. I'll show them what a pawn can do to a king. Like, oh my God, dude. I had to shift my weight. I had to pause it, stand up, and stretch a little bit. Because that seems to be propaganda 2.0, is that, well, sure, we have some mistakes, but the goals and the ideals of this country are what's really worth fighting for.
And his journey, if you could even call it that, as a character, where he goes from thinking, oh, I was just a pawn, to then being realized that in his attempt to take down the king as a pawn, he was playing into the establishment's hands. But so the solution for that is to just continue to work for the hegemon,
to try and become basically like a bishop or a rook. Is basically like what his full arc ends up being.
Yeah, that's the new American dream, limited class mobility. So if you can marginally get over on the right side of middle class, then I guess you can call that a victory.
Yeah, you made it. That's a pawn turning into a queen, right? That's what that means.
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
I can't keep this up.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. So then he is able to get out of prison because he has information about that fourth remaining hit guy. And so he's taken to a black site facility that kind of looks like the back of a Lowe's parking lot a little bit to me. Like with the shipping containers and with just, again, the sound stage that they were operating off of really kind of felt like just coming from a hardware store commercial is what I got as a vibe from it. He's taken then to inside of a shipping container where we get a massive exposition dump talking about the surviving assassin.
Well, they literally used the term post-Soviet, and it was just indicative of this movie's overall seeking some exterior villain. And they literally have the CIA guy express this directly as saying, we need to unite the country around an external villain, but we don't have it yet. And, we're obviously, the Soviet Union doesn't exist anymore. We're acknowledging that. And sort of all, Russia is not the end all villain, but it's what we have for now. And it just definitely left that open. And I really like the way, your theory that they're saying, China would be the country that they're in conflict in for the sequel, because at least in terms of how things are trending right now, that is absolutely filling the role as main enemy. You see it from fucking Joe Biden giving a speech to both chambers, threatening China and Iran, just, like any other neo-libcon, and people thought that they're moving him left. Fucking fools.
It is also weird that they kind of build him up as being like the obvious mini boss for our main character to go after, because at least with the way pacing and stuff works, it feels like in a movie where we never get a cut to the enemy's perspective, that 9 times out of 10 that means that the enemy is going to be revealed via plot twist, and it's someone that you've been following the whole time. Like that's kind of what you think. So I felt like it was getting a little telegraphed as a movie at this point.
Yeah, I was never invested in, as an audience member, I was never emotionally invested in going after this last member of the assassin team, when like you said, the real villains are entirely kept in shadow, and mostly revealed and confronted through exposition. And it's just indicative of how the main villain is just the United States global world order.
Yeah. And I wish I could say that was blowing it out of proportion, but that ends up being what the main villain of this movie actually is. And again, we'll talk about it a little bit further on. But meanwhile, we're having to kind of blaze through the second act here, because Kelly then is able to join a Black Ops mission to try and take this guy down. But instead, on this flight, they're shot down because, of course, they're fucking invading Russian airspace. And the plane crashes into the ocean, but they're able to inflate a boat and get out of Dodge and be able to go to shore. So the only casualty was the one pilot who was just basically trying to do his job. So fuck that guy, I guess.
I did like how that acknowledgement that the United States cannot operate with impunity anywhere in the world anymore. Inside other borders, if you're sending a military ops team on a flight into Russian airspace, you're probably going to get a missile shot at you.
That's exactly right. And the thing I also loved was the fact that they were trying to even be sneaky about it. Like, they were trying to fly up instead of directly across. So they were flying up to like the Arctic level and then coming back in, and Russia was attacking them immediately with that. Because Russia, wouldn't you know it, they want to protect their borders too. Who knew?
Don't poke the bear.
How could they? So they meet up at this warehouse. It's generic warehouse number 4. I think, of this movie, if my count is correct. And Michael B. Jordan is able to then confront the CIA guy because he's pretty sure that this guy has to be the mole within the government that's actually working for the Russians. But I paused the movie and I checked the runtime. We're at the halfway mark, so it's obviously not this guy. Just, basic problem solving that we can figure out. Because I think 9 times out of 10, it probably would be the CIA guy who is there when all shit goes south. That he probably is up to some shady shit and pulling some strings.
Well, if you're looking at it objectively, he is the villain because he represents the armed American state abroad. If you're looking at it with any sort of clear cut eyes. And given the state of the world we live in and where the money comes from that this movie is made by, absolutely all the protagonists and no matter what direction the plot goes, they are the villains. They are the bad guys. They are evil.
Hey! Let's not focus too much on how the CIA are the bad guys, and let's focus instead on how this is actually like a Fantastic Four cast reunion. Because Michael B. Jordan was not Johnny Torch. Whatever. What's his name? Johnny Flames? Johnny Storm. There we go. And how Jamie Bell, the guy who's the CIA agent, was Ben Grimm from that movie.
Getting the gang back together.
Yeah, exactly. Fantastic Four, where the most lasting impression I had was where the Thing's main phrase, "It's clobbering time," the origin story for that, we find out, is Ben's alcoholic father would say that right before he would beat them.
God damn.
Real nice, good memory.
Fuck. God damn.
The group is able to find the Russian agent Rykov in a building, and they swarm it from the ground up. And this is where I thought, oh, wow, they're going to do something kind of like The Raid or like Judge Dredd, because the villain is at the top of the building, and they have to fight through various levels. I thought we're going to get a mini version of that. That's so cool. But instead, it's just John Kelly bars the door so he can go mano a mano up the stairs, doesn't face any real obstacles along the way, and then faces off against Rykov, the main bad guy, who has a suicide vest on. Because what's the big plot twist, Grift?
That people are willing to blow themselves up for the CIA.
Yeah. Wouldn't you know it? I want to know what this guy's price was. It'd be like, the CIA offered me $300 American to do this. Do you have any idea how much money that is here? That could change the life of my family.
Yeah,
forever.
We're not quite at that level of neoliberal hellscape where people are willing to sacrifice their lives by blowing themselves up for the CIA. We're not there yet. But in this world of this movie, I guess we are.
Because the guy explains that this is all like a ruse, right? To try and get the US and Russia to fight each other, and about how he's part of the real patriots. He either says real patriots or true patriots, and then he blows himself up, which is just fucking insane to me. That's how the game plan was.
That is a sort of underexplored and potentially very dangerous scenario where a faction of the U.S. military goes rogue and has sort of extremist views. Imagine if a part of the CIA until the intelligence service went rogue or was being guided by some force other than working on the United States interests. And if only, yeah. If only, it wasn't like that all the time, but the interests are their own, no matter what this.
Are you implying that I don't know, maybe that some Middle Eastern family might have worked to try and get someone who was a CIA director at one point in time to be elected to become president of the United States? Oh man, that would be crazy if that happened, Grift.
Yeah,
I can't live in that fantasy fantasy world, because think of what that would mean.
People think you're a conspiracy theorist when you say Buttigieg is CIA, but like they did it with H.W. Bush.
And if H.W. Bush could be CIA, look at that motherfucker. he makes Buttigieg look like a fucking Friday Night Lights football jock by comparison.
Yeah, just and at the end of the day, infinitely more sinister and
God, yes. Again, there's a dark power emanating from him from that. So rest in piss, I would say to him yet again. After the massive explosion that they somehow all survive just fine, they end up getting attacked by two snipers that try and pin them down. They manage to make it to the ground. One of them gets hit and dies. So we get the real big climactic, like, if you see my wife and kids, tell them, and then he dies.
And this
I was laughing my ass off when that happened. I was not reading the room at all. It was supposed to be tragic and heartbreaking, but I was like, God, died like a bitch. Oh man.
I think part of it too. I mean, they killed his pregnant wife. And this movie, over the course of the entire thing, held back as far as showing blood and guts and the actual bodily harm that these people are doing to each other. And they, held back on. They just showed like him clawing at a bloody sheet when he was confronted with the image of his, his gunned down in cold blood pregnant wife. And and it just it all felt very cheap. And I feel like if this movie had been willing to have the same level of gore and realism on that, these cheesy emotional beats might have hit a bit harder and might have had a more consumable product.
Yeah, but then you have to acknowledge the certain aspects of war and of loss and of that, and they're not going to do that in this. He has to basically be like a superhero. But we get to my favorite part of the movie now, Grift, because they're pinned down, they're stuck, and that's when John Kelly takes it on himself to go up to the roof as Russian cops are swarming the place and just start Chris Dornering his way and making a path for them to get to the van and escape. Just a wonderful, wonderful scene to see.
Yeah, gotta love any scene that features a guy blowing up Russian cop cars from a roof by chucking grenades.
It's one of those things of where but if it happened to the U.S., he would have been a bad guy. But weird how you can blow up cop cars and be a good guy. That's my takeaway that I'm choosing to get from this movie. Thank you. I will not be taking any notes from the director or the production team on this.
Yeah, in the American propaganda machine, ACAB cops from a country like Russia, they don't count as the same. I guess the same breed of person.
Well, because those are all KGB agents. They're communist, Grift, over in Russia. Come on,
all those dirty Slavic communists over there. They're not the same thing as white bread American cops. They're not the same breed. They're not the same.
This is going to be an uncomfortable realization, I think, for American audiences. But I would probably say that those Russian cops might be a little bit more human than the American cop counterparts, because at least it seemed like from the city where they were invading, it wasn't this massive giant metropolis that they were coming from. So these cops might actually have come from the respective communities that they are policing and patrolling. So.
Yeah, and we've seen that Russian cops can deal with getting a lot of snowballs thrown at them. They clearly have more restraint than their American counterparts.
It is something that I think maybe we can all learn a little bit from each other, because then Michael B. Jordan, he is able to strip Russian SWAT guy, take his outfit, and then escape somehow, some way, all the way through. I just thought that was one of those. You need to show a scene of him walking away, so give him that outfit, I guess, and that's somewhat plausible. So him and the other people from his operation, they make their way back to the United States by a boat, and then on the boat, that's when there's this kind of, I guess, like the bro hug moment. They don't actually hug, but you know what I mean, of where like Ritter says that Kelly is going to be a ghost. He's going to be dead to the world. And that Kelly admits that he was wrong about Ritter, the CIA guy. So they kind of develop this bit of a budding bromance, if you will.
Yeah, when the American common man joins hands with the intelligence operative, that's it's gonna be a biracial handshake. It's that meme, of like the redneck guy with the Confederate flag shirt. This is what the establishment fears. But it's a
CIA agent and an op guy doing that exact thing. The thing the proletariat fears most.
It's the Chad, but like Black Ops, sunglasses meme guy shaking hands with the.
Oh God! Oh my God! That's so dark. I would try and make that, but I know then people would start adapting it unironically. That would be no good for anyone.
We're really treading the line on multiple fronts this episode. I love it.
Wouldn't it be hilarious if this was made? Because people definitely won't read this the wrong way. Oh God. Okay, so then back to stateside, we get to actually meet with this person who we've seen for the 2/3 of the movie now, but I didn't really want to talk about him because it kind of gives the big reveal away. Because Guy Pearce plays the Secretary of Defense, and the second you see Guy Pearce in a kind of throwaway role of what it seems like in a movie, you should absolutely know that he's going to be the bad guy. He's in this? Oh, he's not the main character or the sidekick? Okay, yeah, bad guy. Bad guy 10 times out of 10.
Yeah.
Twice on Sundays.
Yeah, absolutely telegraphed there.
So he plays Secretary of Defense. He is confronted by Michael B. Jordan in a bathroom, and then he's abducted, where then he is he's told he has to confess. So he starts confessing to trying to start a new Cold War to boost the economy and give the U.S. a boogeyman, basically. Which this was a real moment in this movie where I thought, oh my God, am I going to actually have to give this movie credit? Are they going to start talking about how the U.S. does rely on needing this perceived outside threat to try and keep domestic issues at home? I thought he was going to tie into the injustices that exist in the United States and the wealth inequality and all of these other problems that happen on the stateside level, that all gets pushed into the background whenever there is this big boogeyman, and that's the idea of control that the government actually wants. I thought that's what his confession was going to snowball into, and instead it does just the most fucking bullshit turn into half the country hates the other half of this country, and I can't stand it. Oh, fuck you, Guy. Oh my God.
It's so sinister to posit the culture war as being the mechanism of imperialism turned inward instead of the economic side.
It just really kind of felt like, okay, so you somehow took what I thought was going to be a selling point moment and you just made it more propaganda. You jujitsu'd it. You took the momentum I thought you were going for and you used it to throw me off sides. Good job. Good job.
I mean, the reason I've been, harping on the thing about the U.S. needing that enemy, which is brought up multiple times, is that, the crux of the villain's justification speech as he's about to die is bringing up this very real concept. And I was honestly surprised that the movie did it, but then they immediately invalidated it by not actually giving the real justification, and then the implied team that was assembled at the end, the purposes and under the auspices of which institutions, it just completely That's the thing with, I feel like, a lot of these Amazon properties, like with the Jack Ryan one, and then even like The Boys, because The Boys, it grapples with a lot of these same issues, but at the end of the day, it's a safe media property made by this studio funded by a company that's taking over the world right now.
Exactly. And I don't want to kill your momentum. I just want to throw something in real quick about the villain Guy Pearce's point about, well, you need an outside boogeyman in order to make the world feel safe. That is exactly what Amazon Studios did with Venezuela and Jack Ryan. That is exactly what they're going to do with China and the sequel to this movie. Like, they are doing the exact playbook that he is saying of what needs to be done. The only difference is they didn't kill someone's family. Instead, they probably poisoned the minds of dozens, if not hundreds of families, which I would argue might be worse.
It's Jeff Bezos using Guy Pearce as like a meat puppet to deliver the Ozymandias speech. By
That's what's happening. I mean, there's even a fucking scene that occurs between John Kelly and Guy Pearce's character where he's saying, like, I need you to say my wife's name out loud. Like, say her name. And the cringe I was feeling, the anxiety I was feeling of like that you have taken the hashtag say her name and turned it into this particular scene. Like, that's what you've done to it. And you've co-opted an entire movement to try and make your cool underwater scene have a little bit more resonance.
I didn't even pick up on that, but now that you mentioned that, like, it's so ghoulish. Like, damn, like, I guess, like, my brain wasn't attuned to it being on that level of cynical. Like, even,
you picked up on so many other things. I'm glad I was able to pick up on one somewhat halfway relevant societal impact here. So, God damn this movie. We also then get a dead wife flashback that's fucking pointless because all he says is like, I miss you, which no fucking shit, Sherlock. It's been like 36 hours since she's been murdered, basically. Or however long, 3 months or whatever the time was. Like, of course you miss your wife. Of course. And so then he, after crashing the car, because his plan is to catch the Secretary of Defense saying all these things while being recorded, then crash the car over a bridge. It kills the Secretary of Defense. He's rescued by a team of SEALs, and he's given a new name by the CIA guy. And that's kind of the end of the movie, except for the mid-credit scene, which is where the ghoulishness really becomes like Call of Duty bandana ghosts level ghoulish a little bit. Man, what did you think about it?
It was like a mashup of the Call of Duty cutscene with the Marvel post-credits, I'm getting a team together type vibe, except it was like I'm assembling a counter-terrorism. It was incredibly team for NATO. Like,
Yep.
Yeah.
It's bizarre because like it says like 1 year later or whatever, and now Michael B. Jordan's character, no longer John Kelly, now he's John Clark, the character from the Rainbow Universe side of Tom Clancy, meets with Ritter, who's now the CIA director, to form this rainbow group that's going to rely on CIA, FBI, Mossad, MI6, and NATO, all of that stuff, to then run these counterterrorism missions. So they're basically trying to become Interpol, but more fascist and with more machine guns. Like that's kind of where we end the movie, and we're supposed to think like, yeah, gonna get the shit done, instead of, aren't you probably gonna end up wiping out a lot more people who are actually running false flag operations? Like, isn't that actually what you're gonna end up doing?
And they're called Rainbow, so it's woke, it's progressive.
Think about this though. Like, Michael B. Jordan went from playing Eric Killmonger, an ex-Navy SEAL guy who then starts to espouse the Black Panther rhetoric in a Marvel movie, right? To where now he's playing a CIA stooge guy running a counterterrorism unit using Rainbow at like a reference to Rainbow Coalition, which is what it's actually to, not Rainbow because like you thought that your little baby girl was going to like rainbows. Fuck out of here with that bullshit that they were trying to get me to feel at the very end with that movie.
Yeah, when the black helicopters take over, they will come carrying rainbow flags.
It's like that tweet I saw, like the first Navy helicopter built by an all-gay service crew.
Oh, yeah.
Just like, oh, great. Okay.
Pretty sure it's not the first time, buddy.
Yeah, it's the Navy after all. Okay. So yeah, that's kind of the movie, you know? I mean, it really was a bit of a slog. I had a lot more fun talking to you about this movie than actually watching it, if I gotta be honest.
Infinite more amounts of fun. Like I think we really came into our own at ripping this thing apart. As a co-hosting unit here. Yeah, this was a fucking blast.
Well, now we get to, you know, kind of a little bit of our wrap up stuff with most memorable moment. What did you think, Grift?
I think we were both in agreement here that it was him interrogating the ambassador guy inside the car.
Oh, yeah.
Or the diplomat or whoever that guy was. But like it was just like the visual of him like just like pointing a gun at him and like but with the flames outside and like his intense expression, like you could definitely turn that into a good Twitter GIF.
Yep. I cannot wait for every CBS show to rip that off in about 3 to 4 years.
and just the concept of like crashing into a guy's car, setting it on fire, and then hopping inside and then interrogating him. Like that was cool. I enjoyed that.
Again, credit where credit's due on some of the action pieces and on some of the grittiness here. It does not make me be able to forgive you for the just wild right-wing propaganda that is the other 98% of the movie. Now, trash cans. How many trash cans are we giving this movie?
I'm gonna throw 3 trash cans at it. It's a pretty insidious but pretty also ineffectual piece of propaganda. And like if you're gonna go and be one of these series that are both obviously propagating a viewpoint in favor of like the American military world order, at least be entertaining, at least have some style, at least have some like many more memorable set pieces than this thing had. Like, just get Michael Bay to do it. Like, just...
Oh, my God. Don't put that evil. You know Michael Bay would love to do a rainbow movie with Michael B. Jordan taking on China. Oh, my God.
That would probably be pretty awesome.
It would be. That's
the problem. Yeah.
I don't want to watch the sequel, but if I hear Michael Bay is going to direct it, it's going to be like the most dude bro thing in the world. They're going to try and rescue people from the Uyghur camps. That's going to be what's happening.
It's like, people online could write such better propaganda than what we're given. It's a shame.
It's truly insane. I mean, I was going to give this movie 2 trash cans, but I mean, after going through and talking with you, I think 3 is definitely the right amount here, because I mean, there is a lot more garbage to this movie than I was thinking. I was only going to say 2 because, I mean, so much of it kind of, again, just went one ear out the other. But the more I was thinking about how, like, who would this actually resonate with? Man, that began to terrify me a little bit. So, yeah, I think 3 trash cans all the way.
I'm glad me going absolutely big brand on this episode had some sort of payoff.
I would expect nothing less, and I would hope for nothing less. So, now we get into plugs here. What's going on in your world, buddy? Where can people find you?
Just as always, at Grift Shop. The O is a 0 in there. And grift.shop is the website. And yeah, just be out. We got that collab with Netscape coming in the coming weeks. So don't have an official date yet, but one of the things I've been excited most about to release in a while. So
Great. Yeah.
It's going to be fucking awesome.
I mean, knowing you and knowing Cole, like, if it's anything less than spectacular, just know there will be heartbreak all across left Twitter. Just, people ripping their shirts and crying aloud across the board.
No, we promise some serious drip.
Good.
And and I think some Cole wants his slice of the profits donated somewhere cool. Hopefully we can donate more than SDL did on their apology stream. We're gonna have to beat $58 and something cents.
As for the show, go ahead and also follow Garbage In Garbage Out on Twitter at GIGO Podcast. You can also find us on Letterboxd at GIGO Podcast. I mean, we're not proud on Letterboxd. We don't have a bunch of followers, nor do we not follow anyone back, and that's the most important thing. Because I think it's honestly pretty fun to see what people's opinions are about movies. Now, weirdly, I wouldn't know for whatever reason, this movie isn't exactly lighting up the charts at Letterboxd for whatever reason. So it was nice to be a trailblazer and that end. Also, please feel free to leave us a 5-star review on iTunes, and also please follow us on Spotify. We're trying to grow both of those because I'm sure at some point we're going to have to choose between Spotify and iTunes with the way Apple and Spotify are hoarding podcasting content. So it's going to be a fun time when that inevitably happens.
I think I'm on Team Spotify, and you don't want
all day.
You don't want to know how much they're paying us. Let's just put it at that.
Do you have anything else for the good people, Grift?
I think we said it. Don't watch this, and don't let your dad watch it.
Words to fucking live by. Goodbye, y'all.
Peace.